I don't know if there's any one thing that limits people's from reaching their full potential than the fear of failure. As I've worked with so many people across North America over the last decade, it's just become more apparent to me that so many people try to be something that they really aren't. They're afraid to take the first step. They're afraid to make a mistake. And so thus they tend to hide, they tend to not ever start, they tend to hold themselves back. And the series that I'm going to take you through, I think, can be really helpful to you. I think it can be really, really helpful. And we're going to split this up. In our first program here today, we're going to really begin to talk about why we're afraid of failing. And, you may not think it's an issue for you. You may think, oh, yeah, it happens sometime. But I'd like you to take a quiz with me, just a little quiz, just a, yeah, that's me, or no, it's not. And there's 9 questions. Okay, so be honest with yourself. So question number 1, do you ever think about what other people think about you? Well, if you do that, you probably have a little bit of fear of failing. Question number 2, do you ever wonder about your ability to go after a dream or a desire that's in your heart, but you wonder if you could ever get it done? You wondered if you could never make it happen? Well, if you answered yes, that's the fear of failure. Do you ever wonder if people will lose interest in you? Question 4, do you ever wonder if people will think you are smart or competent? Your ability to know something and your ability to actually get something done. Question number 6, and this is a really big one, so listen real carefully, would you please? Have you ever told anyone that you don't expect to succeed in a project, or that that company's program, it'll never work? It'll never work. In order that expectations are lowered for whatever the desired outcome from your organization, or that you may have it in yourself. Well, that's the fear of failure. Do you ever get last-minute headaches or stomach aches when you're preparing something that you think is real important, and you get real nervous and you just get all knotted up and tied up? Question 8, do you ever or often get distracted from completing your preparation that ultimately told you, just because I delayed it in my own mind, that it really wasn't as urgent as it really ended up being? Question 9, final question. Do you ever procrastinate? Yeah, that's a sign of, I'm going to put this off because I don't know where to get started, and whatever I come up with won't be that good. I don't even know where to get started. That's the fear of failure. See, these are 9 common areas that really tell us that you may fear failure. Now, in this series, I'm going to shed some light on why this happens. But in this program, I really want to talk about what's in the Bible in regards to failure. And why this is so important is that we know we can't be good at everything. I mean, you think about all the things that we have to do in life. There's generally a few things we do really well, and everything else is kind of, So we aren't going to be great at everything. But here's the deal. Anxiety that you have because you're fearful causes you great harm. I mean, it causes paralysis. It paralyzes you from reaching your full potential. It will limit your potential. It will kill your dreams. It's going to limit your happiness, or does limit your happiness and prevents your success. So what I want to do is to talk about what the Bible says about the fear of failure. And in the Bible, there's a story of what we call the parable of talents. And Jesus tells a story of fear of failure and how we should handle it. How we should really handle that. And, it's in Matthew, the 25th verse is where you're going to find what really causes us fear. And in those days, a talent was really kind of your weight of gold, and that was your body weight. So, one talent could be worth well over $1 million. So let me just start the parable. So again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one, the man gave 5 bags of gold. To another, he gave 2 bags of gold, and to another, 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. He went and put it to work. He gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off and he dug a hole. he dug a hole, and he put that bag of gold in the hole and in the ground and hid it because it was his master's money. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants returned, and he wanted to understand what each person had done with the wealth that he had provided them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5, and the master said, "You entrusted me with 5 bags of gold, and you gained 5 more." His master replied, "Well done. You're a good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with just a few things, and now I will put you in charge of many things." The man with 2 bags of gold also came, and the master, he said, "You entrusted me with 2 bags, and see, I've gained 2 more." And the master replied, "That's well done. I'm so happy for you. You're a good and grateful servant. You've been faithful with a few things, and now I'm going to put you in charge of more." Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold came, and master, he said, "I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here it is. It belongs to you." And his master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that at least it would have returned some interest. So take that bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever who has will be given more, and they will have abundance. And whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them." So what is this? What does this really mean when you really break it down? There are some really interesting things that we can learn here. If you want to grab your pencil and a piece of paper and maybe just write down some of these key words. Remember what the servant who had just been given the 1 talent, what he was afraid of? He said, "I'll lose it." Write those words down. He said, "I was afraid I'd lose it." How many of us are afraid we're going to lose something so we don't ever get started? And so that person hid the talent you gave me. He went out and buried it in the ground and then handed it back to the master. And that master was so mad. He said, "You did nothing with what I gave you. So now I'm taking it back. And the one that I gave you, and I'm going to give to the man who multiplied by 10 talents. Because if you use what God gave you, he'll give you even more. He'll give you even more. This is so interesting as we think about our lives because we're so fearful. And I'm going to leave you with this final thought before you're able to go on to our next podcast. We're in that podcast, we're going to talk about some action steps that you can take. But I want you to understand so many of the answers that we struggle with in our life, that we're curious about, that we're wonder about, that we're anxious about, that we're fearful about, it's in the Bible. If you're not taking any risk in your life, well, then that doesn't require any faith. And if you're not taking any risk, you're not helping and benefiting other people. You're not impacting other people. So if you don't take any risk, that requires no faith. That means if you don't have any faith, you're not being faithful. You're being unfaithful. God made you to make a difference in people's lives. No matter what you're doing. You might be in a floater and you might be just floating dry fertilizer on. You might be a district sales manager. You might be an agronomist. God gave you talents. Use it. How many people do you see in life, they come to work, their head down, and they're all crabby and grumpy, and they're going to put in their 8 hours or whatever that work day is, and with their head down, just trying to get through the day. Don't be that person. Because in one day, you're going to stand in front of the feet of God and Jesus, and they're going to ask you, he's going to ask you, what did you do with the talent I gave you? God gave you a gift, and that gift is for you to use it. We spend over 65% of our life at work doing something. Now's the time to make a difference and not be fearful. I can't wait to sit on the tailgate with you the next time. We're going to give you some real action steps, some real what I call promise that's going to help you overcome your fear. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on the tailgate.